Hey class! Today in this video we're going to go over your math lesson for April 28th. Today we're going to be working with fractions on a number line. So we're going to cover that topic for a couple of days. We've talked about fractions as a part of a whole. We've talked about fractions as a part of a set. Today we're going to talk about fractions as being able to show them on a number line. So it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Here's what you need for today's lesson. You need this page, which I believe says April 28th on it. It says week 3, day 2 practice page, and then the back as well. You need your sharp pencil, of course, and I also really want you to get your plastic fraction bar pieces. These are going to come super in handy as we are working with number lines. So take a minute, grab those supplies, and we will get right to work. All right, folks, let's do this. So take a look, we've got our page with our number lines on it. I have my bar fraction pieces and I've got my pencil, so I'm all ready to go. All right, take a look here at this first one with me. When we are looking at fractions on a number line, the first thing that we have to do is we have to figure out how many pieces this number line is broken up into. Okay, you can see that there's little tick marks, is what I will call them, in between both ends of your number line. This one's got one here. So the way that we are going to solve this is we need to see how many pieces the number line is divided into, and that's going to give us our denominator for our number line. So let's look at this first one. I'm counting, see this space between this tick mark and this tick mark. I want to see how many of these spaces I have. So let's count. I have one space from here to here. I have two spaces from here to here. I have three spaces from here to here. Okay. Another way that you can take a look at this is say how many tick marks come between 0 and 1, between my beginning and my end. I have 2 tick marks, which means I have 1, 2, 3 spaces. Just like when we were folding our paper a couple weeks ago, it's 1 less than the number of folds that you need. So just 2 pieces with 2 tick marks, which means we have 3 pieces. And the reason I wanted you to grab your bar fractions really quickly is because I want to build this and show you what it looks like as a bar fraction, okay? So here is my one whole, just like my one whole number line. I have 1, 2, 3 pieces to get my whole number line. If I get 1, 2, 3 of the same size pieces, I have one whole bar fraction. What's my denominator for these 1, 2, 3 pieces? It is thirds. That's right. So I know that each of these tick marks, as I label them, is going to be in the denominator of thirds, just like this. So this 0 is actually a fraction too. How many thirds do I have if I'm here at 0? If I'm here on my bar, how many do I have? I have 0 thirds. Okay, this first space gets filled up. I get my first bar. How many thirds do I have on my bar fraction? I have 1 third. Same thing here. This space is the space of 1 third. This is where the 1 third stops. Okay, now we have this next space. I have 2 pieces. I have 1, 2 thirds. So this second line here is 2 thirds of the way through my number line. I've done 1 third, 2 thirds. Finally, I add my last piece. Now I know that I have 1 whole bar, but what's another way of writing 1 whole? I have how many thirds? 1, 2, 3/3. So if I look at this, I see that I have 0/3 here, 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, or 1 whole. We labeled our number line. Okay, let's try another one together. Okay, when we see a number line, the first thing we need to know is to find our denominator. That's going to help us label all of these little tick marks. So I gave you a couple tricks for that. Number one is you can count the spaces between 0 and 1, right? We can count our spaces, or we can count the number of tick marks that are unlabeled, and it's going to be one more than that. So let's do it both ways. Why not? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces between 0 and 1. So I think my denominator is going to be 6. Let me check. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 tick marks. So yes, that means I have 6 spaces. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to label all of my tick marks with the denominator of 6, because I know that this number line is broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. And you take a minute and write those denominators as well. I'm going to find out my fraction bars that have the denominator of 6. All right, just about ready. Perfect, here we go. Got my 6, got my 1 whole, got my number line. Okay, we're starting here at 0. How many sixths do I have so far? I have no sixths, right? 0 sixths, right? Okay, I'm gonna go to that first tick mark. This area I've counted. I've counted how many pieces of my number line? 1. 1 out of how many? 6. 1/6. Good. Let's go to the next tick mark. I've now counted this part of my number line. How many pieces? 2. 2/6. Friends, can you predict the pattern that's happening here? If I add this next part, I'm going to have how many sixths? 3. If I do another one, I'll have 4. If I do another one, I will have 5. And if I add my last one to make a full fraction bar, how many total sixths do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 sixths is the same as 1 whole number line or 1 whole fraction bar. You guys are doing so well. Okay, let's flip over to the next side. You're going to do these last 4 here by yourself, and just use the same strategy that I showed you. All right, be careful with your counting. You can do it. Okay, on the back here, I see we still have number lines, but it looks a little bit different. What's the difference, you say? Well, look at the numbers that we're starting with. Are we starting with the number 0 and going to the number 1? No, we're not. We're starting with 5 or 2 or 8 or 1 or 6 or 4. Okay, hey, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of a ruler. Do you see how on this ruler, there's little tiny pieces that are divided up that kind of look like our number line? Yeah. So if I'm at this mark, do I have any whole inches yet? No, I just have half of an inch. But if I come up here, I pass the 1 inch mark and I come to this spot, I have 1 and 1/2 inches. Okay, if I come up here to this spot, I have 5 and 1/2 inches. And the way that we would write that one is we would say 5 and 1/2. You just write them next to each other to give us our total amount. And that's exactly what we are doing here. You still have to put your fractions on your number line, but you just have to remember that whole number that goes along with it. On the other side, we didn't have any whole numbers. We were starting with 0. Here, we do have that whole number that we need to remember. So we can do the same thing that we were doing before, but we'll add that whole number in there. Let me get rid of these. Perfecto. Let's count how many spaces we have to find our denominator, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm gonna need my ones with a denominator of 6. I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna write my denominator of 6 because I know all of these tick marks are a denominator of 6. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal pieces. Or if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tick marks, I need to add 1 to make it 6. Okay, this time I'm not going to use my fraction bars. I'm just going to look at my number line and go with that. Okay, what do I have at this tick mark? I have 5 wholes, which I write a little bit bigger, and how many sixths? Jump the number line to 1/6. So this spot on the number line marks 5 and 1/6. Jump to the next spot. This marks, we still have 5 wholes and how many sixths? 2. This is 5 wholes and 3/6. Here we have 5 wholes and 4/6. Friends, don't rush this. Make sure that you take it nice and slow because I don't want you to rush through it and make a mistake. Okay, here we have 5 wholes and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sixths. And if we come here, we have 6 wholes, or another way we could say it, 6 wholes is the same as saying 5 wholes and 6 sixths, because we know that 6 sixths is 1. So we have 6. All right, we're gonna do one more together, this last one. But when you do these, remember you're labeling your number line, but you're also including that whole number with you. Okay, come down here to that last problem. I see my whole number here is 4 and I'm working up to 5. Great. How many tick marks do I have? Just 1, right? So our total number of pieces between 4 and 5 is going to be 1 more than 1, or 2. So going from here to here is 1 piece. Going from here to here is another piece. How many equal pieces do we have? We have 2. Fantastic. All right, I make the jump from this tick mark to this tick mark. I have 1 out of the 2 pieces, but how many whole numbers do I have to carry with me? Right, I already have 4. So this tick mark we call 4 and 1/2. It would be like if we had our ruler here, we are trying to read it. This tick mark right here, this long one, is 4 inches and 1/2. If we didn't have that 4 and we just said this means 1/2, we're talking about this tick mark, this little half. We have to include that full whole number to go to 4 and 1/2. But we make another jump all the way up here to 5, and that's our next whole number. Or we could say 5 is the same as having 4 wholes and 2 halves. We don't really write it like this. It's much better to just have our whole number. So my friends, thank you for your hard work. This is going to be a little bit tricky, but I feel very confident that if you take your time, you use your fraction bars if you need to, counting the spaces in between, right? Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces means we have a denominator of 6. So take your time, work hard. Let me know if you have questions. If you feel a little bit nervous about this today, it is okay. We are going to be working on number lines for the next few days. All right, go Dolphins.